This is the story of the White Serpent. Long ago, there lived a king famed for his wisdom through the land. Nothing was hidden from him, and it seems as the news of the most secret things was brought to him through the air. But he had one very strange custom. Every day after dinner, with no one present, a servant would bring him a covered dish. Nobody knew what was in the dish, even the servant, for the king never took off the cover until he was alone. The king's strange custom continued for a long time, when one day the servant who took away the dish was overwhelmed with great curiosity. "I will know what is beneath the cover that's so great in value. The king wants me to guard it and brought to him each day to look into." The servant carried the covered dish to his room and lifted the cover to see a white snake. "This is quite a strange food for a king to eat. I wonder what it would taste like." The servant cut off a little bit and put it into his mouth. Once touching his tongue, he heard a strange whispering of voices from his window. "What is that? Why, it is the sparrows. They're talking together. I can't understand what they're saying." The sparrows were chattering to one another of all kinds of things. Eating the snake had given him power to understand the language of animals. Unexpectedly, on this very day, the queen lost her most beautiful ring, and her suspicion went to the trusty servant. "The servant has stolen the ring! I'm sure of it! I placed the ring upon the table, and the servant was the only one present in the dining hall!" In fear, he went down to the courtyard and thought how to help himself from his trouble. When he saw some ducks sitting by a brook taking their rest, having a confidential conversation. The servant stood by and listened. They were telling one another all the places they had been all morning and the food they had found. One said, "Something heavy lies in my stomach. As I was eating in a hurry, I swallowed a ring that was under the queen's window." The servant at once seized the duck by its neck, carried it to the kitchen and said to the cook, "He is a pup duck, and let's cook it for dinner."
"Yes,"
said the cook, and weighed her in his hand.
"The duck has made itself quite well, and it looks as if it can't wait to be roasted."
So, when the cook was busy preparing the duck, the servant waited anxiously for a ring to be found.
"Oh my god, look what I found! A ring, and it's a queen's ring at that! It can't be, but it is!"
"Then let's quickly go to the queen and tell her that a ring has been found." The servant could now easily prove his innocence, and the king said, "I am sorry for accusing you, and to make amends, I will grant you any wish you desire." The servant said, "I don't want anything except a horse and some money, for I wish to travel to countries beyond this kingdom." The king granted his wish, and the servant set foot to his adventure the next day. While traveling through the forest, he came to a pond where he saw 3 fishes caught in the reeds, gasping for water. He heard them lamenting that they must perish so miserably, and as he had a kind heart, got off his horse and put the 3 prisoners back into the water. They quivered with delight and cried to him, "We will remember you and repay you for saving us." He rode on when he heard a voice in the sand at his feet. He heard an ant king complain, "Why can't people with their clumsy animals just leave us alone? That stupid horse with his heavy hooves has been trampling on my people." So he returned onto a side path, and the ant king cried out to him, "We will remember you." The path led him to the woods, and he saw 2 old ravens standing by their nest, throwing out their chicks. "Get out, you good-for-nothing child! We will not feed you anymore! You are big enough to provide for yourselves!" But the 3 young ravens lay on the ground, flapping their wings and crying, "Oh, how helpless we are! We can't even fly, and now we have no choice but to stay and starve." So the good servant came off his horse and shared his meal with the 3 ravens. Once satisfying their hunger, they cried, "We will remember you!" He continued to travel when he came by a great city. It was a holiday, and the city was filled with music, dancing, and great feasts. "What does this holiday mean?" And the people replied, "Mean was the day the princess will choose her husband, but she will make them perform a hard task, and if he does not succeed, he will lose his life." Many made their attempt in vain. Nevertheless, when the youth saw the king's daughter, he was overcome by love that he went to the king and declared, "I will be the princess's suitor." "You!" the king groaned. But the king could not refuse his offer, and thought to himself, he will do a task so hard that it will be impossible to do. He was led to the sea, and a gold ring was thrown into it. Then the king ordered him to fetch the ring from the bottom of the sea, and added, "If you do not come back without the ring, you'll be thrown in again and again until you disappear with the waves. But if you do bring back the ring, the princess is yours." He stood on shore and thought what to do when he saw 3 fishes, the very fishes he rescued before. The one in the middle held a mussel in its mouth and placed it on the shore at the servant's feet. When he had taken it and opened it, there lay the golden ring. The joyful servant took the ring to the king and expected his promised reward. When the princess saw that he was not her equal in status, she scorned him and ordered him to do another task. She went to the garden and strewed with her own hands 10 sacks full of millet seeds on the grass and said,
Tomorrow morning these seeds must be picked up and not a single grain left.
The servant sat in the garden and considered how to do his task, but came up with nothing, and sulked away, waiting for the break of day for his death. There's no way out of this one, and death will come tomorrow. As soon as the sun shone into the garden, he saw 10 sacks standing side by side, full and not a single grain left. The ant king had come in the night with thousands of ants, and with great industry picked all the millet seeds and gathered them into the sack. The princess came down to the garden to check, and to her surprise saw that the servant had done the task. But she could not yet conquer her proud heart, and said,
Although he has performed both tasks, he shall not be my husband until he has brought me the apple from the tree of life.
The servant did not know where the tree of life stood. I don't even know where the tree of life is, but I love the princess so much that I would travel across the world to find it. Wandering for a long time, he came upon the woods to lay down under a tree to sleep, when he heard a rustling in the branches and a golden apple fell into his hand. At the same time, 3 ravens flew down, perched upon his knee.
We are the 3 young ravens you have saved from hunger. Now we are big and heard that you were seeking a golden apple. We flew over the sea to the end of the world and brought you the apple.
The servant joyfully set out homewards and took the golden apple to the princess, who had no more excuses to make. They cut the apple in 2 and ate it together. And then her heart became full of love for him, and they lived in undisturbed happiness to a great age.